Hey, this is Carl Ford at the TMC Newsroom, and I'm here with my pal Chris Libertellik. Chris, you got a new title. What's the new title?
I manage government affairs for Skype in the Americas.
Great. Well, first of all, congratulations. I understand with here at CTIA that you guys have launched the Skype app on the iPhone.
Yes.
And that it's already the #1 download. So you and I used to talk about the Carter phone decision and the wireless Carter phone decision needs. So are we at a point right now where the wireless Carter phone decision is no longer needed, or tell me what your expectations now that we've got this done?
Well, so you're right. We announced the Skype for the iPhone yesterday, and we did so because it was the #1 thing that the community was asking for us to do. And so we're here at the show demonstrating that Skype is available on just about all the smartphone platforms. Because the market for smartphones is somewhat fragmented, we've done development across all the major platforms, and yesterday was the iPhone. It doesn't, however, stand for the proposition that regulators can take a back seat to what's happening in the market. In fact, for us, it demonstrates that while Skype on the iPhone is an enormously popular application, in fact, it's the most popular application on the App Store today in just about every country on the planet, more can be done. There can be more innovation and more openness on that platform. And there's been some discussion of whether the app should or could work on 3G networks. And that's where the future is. That's what we tried to educate policymakers about. Opening up these 3G networks is central to innovation policy, as well as central to people saving some money on their wireless phone bill.
So is the expectation right now that the carriers are going to be better partners to you guys with the App Store? How does the App Store integration work?
Well, it certainly demonstrates our commitment to build compelling experiences on mobile platforms. And it's a testament to the amazing work of our engineers who spent a great deal of time and attention working on all of these different kind of apps for mobile devices. And they've done a terrific job. And so to the extent carriers see this compelling experience, that's all positive. There's a spectrum of carrier attitudes. There are operators who are progressive and open and interested in partnering with companies like Skype, social media companies, demand drivers of new devices and applications. And there's probably a spectrum of carriers who are viewing these kind of developments as a threat. And so what we're about doing is engaging all over the spectrum and talking to carriers about ways we can partner. But none of that means that there shouldn't be a policy environment that encourages that ecosystem to thrive. And that's what the Carter phone petition is about. It's about sharing value across the ecosystem, partnering in ways that develop unique experiences, compelling experiences on the mobile platform, so consumers can take Skype anywhere they want to.
Good, good. So with that, well, tell everybody to stay informed, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. It's a pending petition at the agency, and I think more news as news develops.
Great. So, with that said, this is Carl Ford, and I'm in the TMC newsroom with my pal Chris Libertelli, and we're going to talk about the current regulatory situation. Now, what's your expectation? The Commission right now, Acting Chairman Copps is doing a nice job of holding the fort down.
Yes.
When do we actually start seeing them kind of take on the Carter phone petition and other things that we were looking at?
As you said, Acting Commissioner Copps is in charge of the agency and doing a terrific job managing primarily the DTV transition, which was the thing that captured Washington's attention for the last 3 or 4 months. But there have been moves to move Julius Janikowski through the Senate confirmation process. Reading the tea leaves on the timing of that is probably a fool's errand, but I'll be a fool and say that's something that could transpire in the next 2 months. And then when that finishes, you'll see him take the leadership of the agency and install top staffers, and that dialogue will begin, and he will start to establish policies and priorities. And that's really an open question. What are those priorities going to be? Clearly for us, the issue of open networks is one of our top priorities. Reform of the inter-carrier compensation system is something we care deeply about with our carrier partners. So universal service reform, the broadband stimulus bill, there are no shortage of interesting topics for him and his new staff to tackle. So
I'm running the 4G wireless evolution event, which is all about the internet coming to the wireless world in broadband.
Yeah.
Are all the things that we experienced at Vaughan and at TMC about the wireless taking over the landline, or I'm sorry, the internet taking over the landline, also applying to what's going to happen with wireless? Or are we going to see new kind of experiences here?
Certainly at the app level, you're going to see new kinds of experiences, but I think you put your finger on something that isn't talked about enough. For the same reason that 5 years ago at the VON conferences, voice was an application on a fixed line network, voice is an application on a mobile network, on a mobile broadband network. And when you look at what's happened over the last, say, 10 years of policymaking, what we have is a cramped intermodal competition goal, which is defined by the 1996 Act, which finds its intellectual home in the 34 Act, which was about creating competition between trucks and airplanes and cars, right?
Right.
And so what we've had is a very cramped policy environment where policymakers thought that if there's competition between, say, AT&T and Comcast, that's success. But what we're here to say is that what's exciting about this ecosystem, and what should be exciting about policymaking, is that we are looking for a multimodal competition policy, so that there's access layer competition, choice for consumers between AT&T and Comcast, but in addition, choice at the application layer between Skype and a whole host of other internet brands that are innovating in wireless. So in a way, everything that is old is new again, but the experiences and the amount of affordability that can come out of these applications is a step function increase in what we saw from the 96 Act.
Excellent. Excellent. So I know you're in 40 countries. How does the lay of the land apply in terms of once the commission gets appointed, let's say by June, should we expect that we're going to be the thought leaders, or are there innovation in other areas right now?
Skype is a global brand,
right.
And so I have colleagues who work on global issues in EMEA and the EU, in Asia, and I think from our perspective, policymakers everywhere, including the States, are served well if they approach these issues with some humility. It may be that the Europeans have developed the right approach to protecting openness on the internet, and that could be imported back to the States. It may work in the other direction. We last year worked on the Comcast peer-to-peer network management order, which I think was a high watermark in policymaking around that issue, and we're seeing that reverberate through other jurisdictions. But we should be open to having that come over the Atlantic from that direction to the States and vice versa. Wherever there are good ideas, we should be championing them no matter where they started.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Chris. One more time. Ready? This is Carl Ford in the TMC newsroom. I'm here with my pal, Chris Libertelli. Chris, why don't you kind of just give us a level set as to what you see the regulatory issues being right now and where things are?
Well, I think there are two broad categories of issues at the FCC these days. There's a suite of issues around openness, which is the net neutrality issue, wireless openness, whether carriers can manage their P2P traffic in certain ways that may violate the Internet Policy Statement, which is the FCC's sort of guiding principles on this subject. And there are probably other iterations of that issue that are coming in this broad suite of openness issues. And then there are what I'll describe as the traditional legacy telecom work that the agency has to do, and that's defined by things like universal service reform, implementing the broadband stimulus bill in concert with NTIA, reforming the intercarrier compensation regime, and there are a whole bunch of sub-issues there like phantom traffic and others, and on and on and on. Contributions to the USF regime, disbursements from the USF regime, all of that is in play now that the Congress has given the agency clear direction on what they want to see out of the broadband stimulus bill, and then it remains to be seen how they're going to marry up those goals with reform of the universal service system.
I haven't even thought of asking you this question, but since you brought it up, how does the stimulus package apply to you? Do you see an opportunity for Skype to support some rural efforts or some broadband solutions?
So what's wonderful about Skype is it's a software-defined service, so our reach is global. And we're not a network owner, nor are we a replacement for somebody's primary connection to the internet or to the PSTN. What we have done is worked with policymakers to define that openness condition in a way that works for our community and our users, and work with carrier partners around that issue. But as a direct applicant for stimulus support, it's not on our priority list. There are other companies that are doing that work, and we wish them well.
That's a That's a good answer and a good place to leave it. Thanks.
Sure.